Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. I have an awesome guest on today. He's partner at Order, managing editor of Standards Manual, CEO of Standards, and creator of Chip Slip. Please join me in welcoming Jesse Reed. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Are you ready for 20 questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. Question one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Well, you did cover it pretty well in the intro there. As you said, I run multiple businesses in various capacities. At the end of the day, though, when sort of someone asks me what do, I do say I'm a graphic designer. So that's what I went to school for. It was sort of my passion. It's still what I love to do every day. It's taken a few different shapes and sizes and different paths, but yeah, graphic designer. I lead teams. I do the work also myself. I don't know. I think of ideas. That's sort of my day to day.
Great. And just a note for the audience, if you guys are waiting for the Pentagram Partner episodes, look out for the episode with Georgia Lupi and Samar Macaron. Those are coming later this month. Question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
I think I was fortunate enough in my education and the program I went to for design school to have a fair amount of design history courses. And that's something that I really latched onto and sort of absorbed quite heavily. And so I think, that has been a recurring piece of my current practice. I mean, sort of the historical sort of aspects of our profession and how we've gotten to where we are that I sort of find don't always come to the surface in every conversation that I have or with younger designers. So yeah, I think sort of the education of design history specifically has allowed me to contribute a few more things than I think I could have without it.
Great. And question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Um, Looking back on it, I think as a kid, not knowing at all what graphic design was, no one ever sort of told me that this was a profession that you could get into. But I did always have a fascination with collecting various things, whether it was sort of like soda bottles or limited edition, I don't know, toys or like anything really. Like my room was literally just packed with collections of objects that were multiples of something. It was always a series. It was always some sort of repetition that I found fascinating to collect. So I think once I learned about what graphic design is and what you do in this work, it makes a lot of sense that I think as a child or as a younger person, this sort of idea of collecting and organizing and sort of systematically thinking about anything, even if it was a soda bottle or a toy, makes a lot of sense for what I do now as a designer. But it was definitely an atypical path to get here.
Great. So some people struggle with number four, and the question is, what does your future look like?
Yeah, I guess it's a challenging question because futures are unknown. And I mean, I will say, even doing what I'm doing today, everything was completely um, uh, not anticipated, is somewhat spontaneous, or there were opportunities that led to all of them that I couldn't have predicted. So in the future, I mean, I hope I'm just doing more of what I do. I mean, to be honest, the thing that I get excited about when I come to work, every day or every week, and a new email sort of pops in our inbox with a potential new project or partner to work with, I still get really excited about those opportunities. So, it's nothing dramatic, but I do hope to just continue working with new people, working within new industries, and learning something from that. And I don't know. I've been spending a lot more time up in upstate New York in the Catskills and potentially building an art studio. So maybe in the future, there's more art in my life in addition to design.
Great. And five we say is unique to this show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
I would say it has a considerable impact. So I live in New York City, Brooklyn specifically, or I guess Greenpoint, the neighborhood specifically in the borough of Brooklyn. But the city as a whole, yeah, plays a huge impact. I mean, I think probably most people who live here will say similar things, but the amount of change and stimulation and just constant flux uh, of activities to participate in brings you perspectives and ideas that I think would be very different if you lived in California or Ohio or Nebraska or anywhere else, in the entire world. So I think it's a pretty fortunate place to live, and I sort of always have a place to go if I feel stuck or if I need to do research or if I need to learn about something. Basically, everything feels like it's at my fingertips if you just sort of search for it. So I would say even like the type of work that we do is sort of industry agnostic. And because of that, we do have to sort of learn new things all the time. And I think the city is sort of a big open catalog to do so.
Great. So six, you're starting from the beginning. What advice do you give your former younger self?
I think this one points more to the relationships that you build professionally and sort of along the way. Um, whether they're term or short term. Being a designer, it's almost like the design is the easy part, but I think the people that you work with, the jobs that you take on, the partners that you have, those are a lot more difficult to, I don't know, to sort of see when you're younger. And I think as you mature and get older, you start to understand people a lot more. And so I think if I had to, yeah, sort of give advice to my former self, it would be pay, closer attention to the people that you work with and the people that you choose to, work for or collaborate with, and not just look at sort of the surface level design aspect of everything, but really the collaborative sort of personality traits of the people that you're getting involved with.
Great. And seven, what's a day in your life like?
Every day, it really is different. There's a combination of activities and events, I suppose, that repeat themselves. But um, one piece that I try to sort of carve out as much as I can is time for actual design work. So yeah, at Order, I run a team. So there's five different designers and sort of staff at Order, and I sort of manage and oversee, direct designers, but I also try to keep or sort of take jobs for myself. And so that's something that's very important to me and something I don't want to lose. And so there's a few hours, hopefully. More than a few to do actual design work. Then for standards manual for the publishing imprints. When we have new titles, I am sort of coordinating either things that are happening in the future or titles that I'm working on currently. So that could be design, or it could just be something that happened over the holidays. I had thousands of books that were stuck in U.S. Customs, and I had to try to figure out how to get them out of there. And then it's, taking business calls for new potential customers for standards, our software platform. And then it's meeting with my team and discussing and overseeing projects with them. So it's a combination of designing, meetings, overseeing, reviewing, figuring out logistics and planning. But really every day, what the actual schedule is never the same twice.
Great. So eight is about lifelong learning. It's a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
So I don't have the luxury, I suppose, of time, or I guess it's the choice of, going to school, or currently that is not something that I'm doing. So I think the way that, I stay up to date, it's actually the people that I am working with and the people that are on our team, the people that I hire, whether it be younger people that are sort of more aware of new, technology, new processes, a new way of thinking, or working with clients that have, decades of experience on myself. And so I think that has allowed me to continue learning, not in a traditional sense or not in an academic setting, but just surrounding yourself with people that teach you things you don't already know. And I think the saying is true is that work with people smarter than you. And I think whether that's directly from an employee or partners, collaborators, from a consultation perspective, that has been able to teach me as much as I can, not being, in a classroom.
Great. And nine is about tools. Do you use both digital and analog tools?
I do. I mean, it's true that, I work from a laptop most of the time if I'm not sitting at my desk in the office. And so when I'm traveling or anywhere in the country or the world, I am able to still work, which is an advantage to our profession, I suppose, or at least the position that I'm in. But I still work in the beginning in a very analog way. I mean, I have a pen and a notebook, and every idea for a new identity, or even a book, or a layout, or even a presentation, most of the time, even to this very day, is sketched with, a pen and paper before moving into a digital context. So I still work, very analog. It was how I again was sort of educated in school, and the experiences that I've had as a designer early on in my profession was working with mentors and other designers that also worked in that way. So being able to draw, even if it's the worst, sort of looking sketch in the world, to just communicate a very simple, quick idea, makes then going into a digital sort of setting much faster and easier. So I definitely still bridge the gap.
Great. And halfway number 10, how do you deal with work life or life work balance?
I think I do this really well. Maybe I learned it in college, where essentially I, for whatever reason, told myself that I was not going to procrastinate anymore on schoolwork. I think in high school, I wasn't actually a great student, and I would wait until the last minute to do things. But when I went to university, I never really pulled all-nighters. I got work done ahead of time. And then as that sort of, transitioned into my professional life, actually the first job that I had was at the Museum of Modern Art, and one of my peers, one of my colleagues, called me about sort of this 888 day, which is pretty simple. It's just dividing, the 24 hours into 8-hour blocks, which is fairly known and common. I mean, maybe adults on average should get 8 hours of sleep. The sort of workday is 8 hours. But he was pretty strict about it. And so once he sort of told me how he was able to accomplish everything he needed to within an 8-hour workday, and then leave work, spend 8 hours not working, and then make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep. I'm not robotic about it, but it has sort of allowed me to be the most efficient that I possibly can during the workday, and then leave at the time we're supposed to, and whatever, go to a show, go to a movie, play music afterwards, and then get a full night's sleep and not having to stress about it. Of course, there's anomalies and there are exceptions, but I feel like I have been able to adopt a pretty good work-life balance.
Great. And 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
So before I found graphic design, which was actually in college, even before freshman year, I had no idea that, again, like I mentioned, that this was sort of a thing that you could get paid to do. And so I went to school for fine arts. I thought I was going to be a photographer, so that's definitely a path that I could have went down. I still do photography. I shoot with film, just 35 millimeter as a fun sort of side hobby. So, maybe that could have turned into a profession. I think, living the life that I have and sort of observing other professions and industries, I think an interest in the culinary world has definitely become something I'm a fan of. And, if I maybe had the better skills to perform, maybe I would have looked into being a chef or working in food in one way or the other. And the people always laugh at this, but I love driving. And I think even when I was in school, I sort of had this idea once of, how great it would be to be a truck driver and just sort of drive long distances, see the country, have some sort of purpose. But yeah, I don't know. There's something therapeutic about being on the road for long stretches that I find satisfying. So yeah, maybe one of those things.
Great. And what would you not like to do with your career?
Personally, like really personally, I think not talking as a company, but designing websites, that doesn't excite me the most. I think I like thinking about sort of the more holistic branding component of the work that we do. We have much more talented people on our team that we've worked with that do that work and that love it much more than I do personally. So I think, I never really got into the UI UX sort of side of design. And yeah, I don't know. At this point, I can't really see myself becoming any more proficient in it than I already am. And I think that's where I get to work with people that do love that work and they're able to add value where I can't. So that's probably where I probably yeah, won't ever dive much deeper into.
Great. And do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
I do actually. When I was interning in college in New York City, there was a magazine. I think it was a quarterly or bi-monthly literary magazine called Public Space. And somewhere in working with that client, they mentioned a quote by Abby Hoffman, who was part of the Yippie movement in the 70s, maybe 80s in New York City, in the Village. And he said, the best way to get someone's attention is to create a blank space. And I always thought that was really interesting, even before I sort of, progressed as a designer and sort of the philosophy that maybe I subscribe to, which is this idea of reducing and removing and simplifying. But it really is true, sort of you can get people's attention a lot more with a big blank wall than you can filling it up with hundreds of words to read. So I always thought that was pretty intriguing.
Great. And do you have a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Uh, you know, I don't know if there's exactly one, but it's words like basically design jargon. So things like digital transformation. For some reason, that one I keep on hearing quite a bit, and it's just sort of like irks me. Just these words that don't really mean too much and are just said to sound impressive. So I think just design jargon on a whole, I can't really stand. I'd rather be much more just straightforward and blunt with actually the things that we're talking about and trying to achieve rather than trying to sound fancy about it. But so we'll just go with digital transformation as my current least favorite two words.
Great. And you're choosing one word to describe yourself. What word do you choose?
Decisive.
What keeps you up at night?
This isn't a bad keeping myself up at night, but when we do get a new project or I'm working on one, maybe specifically on my own or one that I'm a little bit more closer to, I really, and I think this is pretty common. I mean, designers sort of go to sleep and have design dreams, but it's not like stress. It's not like a stressful keeping me up at night, but I really start to think and dream and imagine what this new project could become. So what what research we're going to do, what are the areas that we're going to look more at, and just really it's sort of a fun excitement keeping me up at night rather than a dread. Even though sometimes it is scary, sort of the unknown of not really being sure what's going to come of it, and sometimes you don't have an idea in the very beginning, and that can be terrifying. But I mean, it just happened this week, which is why I'm sort of thinking of it. We are working on a couple new projects, and I go to sleep sort of thinking about them in a very excited way. So, new design work, I guess, keeps me up at night.
Great. And final stretch here, number 17. What's a dream you're chasing?
So I said this in the beginning, sort of a similar answer to this. I don't have, I think I have achieved dreams that I didn't even know were things I was dreaming of. Maybe it's owning my own studio or, working in publishing, making books. And that seemed for a moment in the early aughts like it might not be possible when print was sort of being rumored to be dead. But I really just want to keep on working on more exciting projects. So it's not a specific dream, but I think if I continue in my career and it doesn't all of a sudden come to a halt, the best dream I can have is to keep working with interesting people, doing interesting things, and learning about them, and again sort of growing as a person and a designer through that lens. So I just sort of, yeah, have a dream that this continues for the foreseeable future, and I'm just sort of not asking for too much, which I guess is also a way that I live, which has a slight tilt of low expectations. So when great things really happen, it's much more sort of exciting.
Great. And what inspires you?
This probably isn't surprising to the people that know me, but I'm greatly inspired by the past and by history. So I mentioned sort of design history aspect of my education, and that's carried through yeah, quite far. And I still, just today I went over to do a site visit of a new hospitality project that we're working on. They're renovating a space that is somewhat historical. And when I get to go into a place like that and find little, I don't know, moments of the past that could potentially spark an idea or a relationship to a new project, that is really exciting to me. And it doesn't always mean that I want to make things look old or look like they're from a certain decade or generation, but there are stories to be told and to be found through, yeah, looking at what has come before us, and then you get to sort of add the next chapter on yourself. And so definitely history in the past and the objects, places, people that we will never know ourselves is greatly inspiring.
Great. And last couple here, number 19. Any advice you'd like to share?
So I gave the answer of decisive being a one way to describe myself. And it is sort of the piece of advice that I give younger designers only because it wasn't a personality trait that I think I always had as a kid or growing up. I wasn't aware that making quick decisions, but ones that were still informed, was sort of a critical skill. But I learned it in design school, so it was a design element, I suppose, that was being taught, like sort of making a decision on a color or a form or a shape. And it doesn't really matter what choice you make, you can always make the best of it. So you can apply that to aesthetics, but you can also apply that to business. So simply the act of making a decision leads you to the next sort of peg in whatever, sort of ladder you're climbing. And I think sort of hesitation is one of the worst sort of qualities that you can have as a designer or business owner. And it doesn't mean to rush or do things quickly, but just having the perspective, the point of view, and the ability to make decisions is just so critical. So it's that plus confidence. And so, sort of being decisive, having confidence, those things go hand in hand. And they're not easy to just immediately have if your personality has always been the opposite, for example. But I think it can be taught and learned over time through incremental steps. So yeah, making decisions and growing confidence. I can't stress enough that those are good qualities to have later in life.
Great. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you and what's our call to action?
The best way to keep tabs all inclusively, I guess, would be my personal Instagram, which is at JRFO. And on there has links to all of the businesses that I'm involved with. So Order, Standards Manual, Standards, Chipslip, and Order Type Foundry. So yeah, the best place to go, Instagram at JRFO, and you can find everything on there.
Great. Well, so great to kick off 2026 in this way. Reconnecting with New York and fleshing that part out has been a real kind of blessing for us. So thanks so much for joining today.
Yeah, thank you. Really a pleasure to be here.